Hello,
Hello.
good morning, Shail Saab. Yeah. All right. So, a warm welcome to each and everyone here who is tuned into us for this Design Culture Learning Series, Part 2. Now, what is the Design Culture Learning Series? First, I would like to um, just mention about that. You see, the Arch College of Design and Business, Jaipur, has been in design pedagogy for over 22 years now, almost. And it is claimed to be one of the foremost design colleges of the state and the country. And recently, it also won an award for the same. And the DCLS is a program that was conceived during the pandemic by Arch College of Design and Business in order to enrich and enthuse aspiring design students with real-life design-related case studies, projects, experiences by industry professionals, educationists, entrepreneurs, experts, and other stalwarts of the field. See, last year, during the pandemic, Arch had conducted 16 such sessions in 4 different categories like Creativity 5.0, Society 5.0, Harmonious Livability, and Design Leadership. Now, all these sessions are available on the YouTube channel and also in form of a book that was transcribed from these sessions for a quick and easy reference to anyone interested. Now, today marks the inaugural session of the second part of the series, the Design Culture Learning Series. And we have invited 12 experts from different fields. So every week we'll have three different professionals who will come and talk to us, or rather address us on this platform, share their experiences and learnings. And just like last year, these sessions will also prove to be of immense benefit to anyone who is interested or a serious learner in this field. And further, about the Arch College, I would say that this has been a very interesting mission, very different mission, and it has contributed a lot to the design pedagogy, especially when things have been online. And also to mention the fact that now with the founder and director, Archana Suranaji's recent induction onto the board of the Cumulus Association, the design education at Arch is bound to see a further elevation in its pedagogy mission. So now let's proceed with today's session, the inaugural session of the Design Culture Learning Series, the inaugural. We are going to have 12 such sessions, and today, on the 20th of June, almost, I think, the longest day, probably longest day is tomorrow, 21st Sunotai, but anyway, we commence with the theme of Creativity 5.0, and our special guest to address this and share all his different thoughts, ideas, experiences, and recommendations in this field. We have Shri Shail Choyal. Now, Shail Choyal Saab is not just a very close friend of mine, but he's more than that. He's a friend, philosopher, guide, and many things. But more about him, he's a recipient of the fellowship from the Ministry of Culture, Government of India, and even the British Council. And Shail has earned, I think, over 22 awards in various prestigious exhibitions held in India, which include National Award from the Lalit Kala Academy, the President of India, and prestigious printmaking at Cadax, Barcelona, Spain, and several more. These are just to kind of, just mention a few. And he has been teaching art for over 30 years at the MLS University in Udaipur. And he has also held several one-man shows in India and abroad, like London, France, and has participated in many group and traveling exhibitions, printmaking, and runs several workshops in sculpture, arts, creativity, creations, and all that. And that's about Shail Saab, and there's a lot more which you can find on his website also. But I would like to give a warm welcome to Shail Saab right now and enlighten our listeners, our viewers, our audience with your presentations or your talk, your session. Welcome, Shail Saab.
Thank you, Varga sir, for inviting me to share my views with the new generation and the professionals of design. The subject that I have been given is creativity, which has got so many connotations that it spreads to so many things. But I believe, I mean, we all understand that it is the creativity that distinguishes human beings from other animals. As an artist, if I look back to the history, I mean, I would believe that the entire history of human progress, from primordial to Homo sapiens, is the story of creativity. I have chosen today to take you through the history of art, that how people have been creative and how they have done something extraordinary. Because we shall have to care for originality, progressiveness, and novelty. These are the three areas which are most important in our life. So, I mean, it is, many educationists say that each and every human being is born with the creative instincts. But it is the exposure and the environment that gives him opportunities to create something new out of what is going on. And he brings novel things. So I would like to share that how right from prehistoric period, the man was fighting to live for the survival.
You probably want to share the screen now.
Yeah, I want. Yeah,
good. You got it.
Because
wonderful.
The visual arts cannot go without visuals.
Yes. Go ahead. Please go ahead.
Now see, this is a scene painted by contemporary, I mean, the modern painters about the subject of prehistoric man. Prehistoric man was living in caves. He was hunting, depending on hunting. But even that time, they painted the walls of the caves with those animals whom they were hunting. And the material available was just coal, charcoal, or at the most gypsum or red oxide. And they created such beautiful works, which gives the references of the prehistoric period throughout the world. It is in Europe, it is in India, and it is in US. Everywhere in the world, you can find the prehistoric man painting on the walls. Here is one of the paintings. I mean, this is a later painting. It's not a photograph or anything. This is a painting done by some European painters at Lascaux caves of Spain. Now, if we go a little further and talk of the cultural setup, we are all aware that it is the Egyptian culture is one of the oldest cultures of the world. And there you can see paintings and sculptures, lots of paintings, sculpture, and architecture. Now, these paintings were painted on the walls, which we call murals or frescoes. Now, very distinctly, you can watch the paintings have been painted just two-dimensional, like a design, and they have not given any light and shade kind of thing, which was later introduced by few painters when the Greek civilization came in, and there was an impact of Greek civilization also on each other. Now, this is a painting from Greece. These are the murals. But if we go back here the paintings are not only flat, it is drawing based, but at the same time, the figuration is very typical. They have observed the law of frontality. The shoulder has been painted from the front. The head has been painted profile. Even the legs have been painted profile. And it is they have conceived human figures in a way that it should look beautiful. But Greeks looked in a different way. And Greeks are trying to observe. They are having a strong observation how man or male or female looks like, and with different postures, how their foreshortening of the body is being created, and they mastered in it. Look at these sculptures. These sculptures are from second BC and first BC. Look at the folds and the observation of the artist. And mind it, in first BC or second BC, they are carving it in the stone, in the marble. And each and every fold is so perfect, as if you have taken the photograph of a person sitting here. They observed the muscles, the clothing, the hair, and the nature so intimately. And the most interesting thing is this, that right from Greek period till the end of 20th century, entire Europe has followed this idea of looking from eyes. Whatever is visible from the eyes, that was the truth for them. And all the painters and the sculptors have painted or sculpted in this style only, that what is visible in front. They will study it very strongly. The anatomy will be understood. The clothing will be understood. The hair treatment and the perspective, linear perspective, aerial perspective, everything they conceive. But this philosophy that whatever is visible in a frame, the way we click through the camera, that particular portion is being painted. Now look at these paintings. Now in Greeks, they painted frescoes and created sculptures with a very strong observation like camera. But here, this is a painter from Netherlands, because slowly and gradually Roman culture is spread everywhere later on. After Greeks, Romans came, and Roman culture is spread all over in the world, in European world. And in Netherlands, this painter invents the oil medium, oil color, because earlier the painting was done either with the earth colors, either with the water as tempera, or on the walls when the plaster was still wet. So the pigment will penetrate into the wall and will make it more permanent. But here, Jan van Eyck, these were two brothers, Jan van Eyck, and another was Hubert van Eyck. They are pronounced as Van Eyck also by Dutch people. These Van Eyck brothers, they invented oil color. They mixed with the linseed oil, the natural pigments, and created these paintings. Now, if we just look at here, sorry, can I zoom it? No, okay. Now see, if we observe this area, just like our Indian miniatures, we see the entire thing. Here, the robes, the feel of velvet, the feel of velvet at the Mary's gown, everything is so intimately and very miniature-like treatment was done. Even at the architectural settings on the arches, etc., on pillars, you can see Corinthian pillars are there, and they have intimately painted. And it was only possible in oils. In other medium, it was not possible. Now the oil medium is open to European cities, and it is spreading everywhere. It is spreading to Italy also. And in Italy, the painters paint like this. Look at the muscles, look at the cloth treatment, look at this facial sentiments, which are dramatically done. So they created such paintings for years. See, this is an Italian painting. And this is a German painter, Dürer, who now invents, Albert Dürer, he invents the etching on the copper plate or on the zinc plate. He applies a wax film and draws on it, and the wax comes out wherever he draws and puts it to the nitric acid. This is what he experimented and took out lots of prints of those engravings. So the Dürer invents. Janwaniak brothers invent oil colors. Dürer invents the etchings, and similarly it goes on further with very different ideas. They are going on creating the arts, visual art. But the philosophy of looking through eyes in a frame continues, which is very different to in India. India, China, Japan, they look at the art world in a different way that we'll discuss it later. Now, you can see a painting by a very famous Dutch painter, Rubens. Rubens and Rembrandt, these were very famous painters. And on the right side, this painting is by a French painter. This is a story of a ship known as that raft of Medusa. This is hanging in the Louvre Museum. But on the whole, the study of human body and the study of nature is improving, because this kind of drama was not there. Now you can see the drama also here. But the very basic philosophy remains the same. And this is what I'm showing you is the last visual of the famous painter Monet, who belonged to the Impressionism. See, before the First World War, there was, between the two wars, there have been lots of art movements. Different philosophies and different concepts have been brought up. But basically, the art remained the same with the idea that whatever we see from the eyes that was painted, till Impressionism was there, it was end of 19th century. But in 20th century, a giant, this artist, a great artist, Picasso, takes birth. He comes to the scene. Now, what Picasso did, I would say that Picasso gave a U-turn to the entire art, because up till now, up till end of 19th century, the artists are observing, looking through a frame, and they are painting. They may paint dramatically, or they may paint a story, or they may paint the natural scenes, etc. But the idea of painting remains within a framework. Now, what Picasso does, I'll show you a small example, which I have done sitting at my home. See, this is a carton of a whiskey bottle, signature. Now, we are looking from this side. Now, this is the other side. This is from the bottom side. When we take the pattern like this, it looks like this. Then this is the top portion of it. And this is the three-fourths part of it. And I have opened the lid, upper lid of the bottle, the upper lid of the carton. And I'm looking inside, and that is the bottom. And now this is the close-up of the bottom of the carton. Now, these are the fractions of the bottle which I have taken out from that carton, from the carton of the bottle. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now I am just arranging them in such a way that it becomes a painting. This is what Picasso did. Picasso believed that the reality is at the behind of the object also. The object can be looked from the bottom, from the top, from the back, from the side, from the distance. And we have to do the synthesis of that object, that it is beautiful from these many angles.
Right.
And when he spread all these angles, it became like this, complex. And this was the first abstraction, painterly abstraction. I don't say that abstraction was not there. Abstraction has always been there in the nature. But painterly abstraction was for the first time by Picasso in such painting. Before this also, he has done some work. And this kind of art was commented, derogatorily by the critics. And they said that this is a cubism and there is no art. There are geometrical shapes, lines and triangles and squares and circles are there, and this cannot be called an art. But Picasso says that this is an art. But mind it, Picasso opened the new chapter for looking at the object from different areas, different angles, and analyze it. And it was the opening of the design part in the painting. Earlier, we were doing stories, and if by our intuition, I would say this figure is not looking nice this way. Let me do it this way. But from Picasso, the space and form, they became integral part of creativity. That how you place a circle, or how you place a chair, or how you place a sofa or a window on a blank space, and what should be there to dissect it, to balance it, which colors. So that kind of experimentation started with Picasso. And then the world was very open. And this painting, many of us must have seen this painting in newspapers or in magazines, the Guernica. This is a very famous painting. But mind it, I had shown you earlier painting of Jericho, Raft of Medusa. That was also a painting based on tragedy. But here, the tragedy becomes much stronger because each and every shape has got its own identity. And it was possible only because the idea of the experimentation towards design changed, that he brought it flat and he could distort it to exhibit his tragedies. And now I return back to Indian art. We all are familiar with this object. This was done at the time of Ashoka in the 3rd BC. And surprisingly, most of the critics admit with this thing that these lions sculpted on this pillar, these have got the influences of Persia and Middle East. The hair treatment of the animal have been done with the designs, parallel designs. And even if you look at this this lotus, the returning lotus, where the petals are returning from the top to the bottom, these motifs are being picked up from Egypt, etc. This is the case of But anyway, what I wanted to say, that art has been always nurtured with different influences. And I would say that culture is like a river. The river is flowing, and with it takes up stones and the garbages and the natural things, and it moves further, and it becomes an integral part of it. So this is where the culture grows. Now, this is also the sculpture from the same Maurya period, from Ashoka period. Now see, we can see the difference between this sculpture and the Greek sculpture. In Greek sculpture, it is the sculpture has been conceived with what we see from the eyes, and here it is stylized. Now, artist is, I mean, the looking at the things by Indian artists were very different. We never believed that the thing which looks, which we see by eyes, is the truth. We believed that truth is in our inside. It is the inside thing. It is within us. So the very description of truth is very different. So we have been always, towards the philosophy, they have been towards that visual reality. So these were the difference. So the Indian sculptor paints it like a mother. And the stylization of the mother figure is here. This work is in the National Museum. Now we all know the story that a few years back, the Talibanis had blasted the sculptures of Buddha. And these Buddhas were in Bamia in Afghanistan. So many of us must have heard about it through the TV or newspapers, etc. Yeah. Now, these are those caves which were created by Greeks in Afghanistan because they had adopted Buddhism. And the left one was a main sculpture, which was later broken. It was blasted by guns by Talibanis. The right side you can see. Now, with the help of UNESCO, it is being rebuilt now. So here also, if we compare the clothings, see the robe of Buddha, it is in the patterns, it is with the lines, and surprisingly, it is done by Greeks. When Greeks come to reach to India, they treat the cloth like this. They don't treat the cloth like normal human beings, because as we know, many of us know that Buddha had given, in his preachings, he had commented that his portrait should never be done. And up till 3rd century, no sculpture of Buddha was created, though Buddhism was existing earlier. But these sculptures were done after 5th century by Greeks who settled down there in Afghanistan and adapted Buddhism. So they started looking on Indian art in Maurya style, and there is that simplicity, the grace is there, and that kind of anatomical behavior has not been adopted from the West and from the Greeks. The next step is Ajanta here. We have seen the paintings of Europe, and if we see the paintings of Ajanta painting, the figuration, what we see is naturalistic. It has been drawn from the natural behavior. The gestures have been very well sketched. Anatomically, there are no mistakes, but still the things are stylized and flat. And there is a typical kind of grace. There is no drama in it, in these paintings. And after that, the style again changes. The Ajanta finishes by 6th century. Ajanta caves are no more. It changes. The Hinduism becomes much more stronger than Buddhism in those areas. and Buddhism becomes Hinduism becomes very eminent in those areas. Anyway, but in Central Asia, in Central India, now Jain religion takes a sweep, and Jain monks create such paintings where the story of the story is painted on both the sides, and in the center or on the sides, the scripture shows the concept of the painting or concept of the religion. Now, these were the paintings which were painted on palm leaves, and these leaves were kept in a book form like this. They would put a wooden piece on the top and bottom, wrap it with the thread, put it in a bag, and go from village to village, one village to second village to third village, and they were showing, they were disseminating the Jain religion. So painting was used for the religious dissemination. Now, this is the third painting, which is a Mughal painting. Now, how the art is changing? Ajanta. From Ajanta, we moved to, I'm sorry. From Ajanta, we moved to Jain, and Jain to Mughal painting. Now, Mughal painting has got one very interesting thing. Let's see. Oh, I'm sorry. See, you can see the activity here, which is the center. Now, sorry, the center is again divided with the architectural form like this. And there is an activity here, there is an activity here, there is activity here, there is activity here. So there, and you can see the activity here, you can see activity here also. So it is the multi-tier perspective. In one frame, the Europeans had done in one frame. But here in one frame, we are bringing different stories. What I have seen behind the wall, that is also being visible. What I have seen in jungle, that also comes to the scene. What I see in bedroom, that also comes from the scene. What is behind the tree or behind the wall happening, that also comes to the scene. So this way, the Mughal painting added a new chapter to Indian painting. And this is a painting from Mewar, Udaipur. Mewar painting has been very famous throughout the world, I would say. There are innumerable paintings in collection of Victoria Albert Museum, and British Museum, and Boston Museum, everywhere. And Mewar painting is one of the schools of Rajasthan. In Rajasthan, was divided to four main areas: Mewar, Dhundar, Marwar, and Hadot. So Hadot means Kota Bundi, Dhundar means Jaipur, Alwar, etc. And Marwar means Jodhpur, Bikaner, Kishangarh, etc. And Mewar means Udaipur, Nathdwara, and Dungarpur, etc. So this way, this Mewar painting is here. Now in Mewar painting, only the difference is that our art in Mewar or in Rajasthan grew with the folk painting. And in folk painting, we had lots of bright colors, which were toned down in Mughal paintings. Now we have the bright colors here. You can see in this work also. In this work also, you see very chromatic colors are there. But the treatment of space is very much borrowed from Mughal painting, and it becomes Rajasthani. I would not say that it is Mughal, but how Mughal elements are filtered here in Rajasthani painting. And this is a painting which I'm specifically showing you. This is a Jain miniature, and you can see the abstraction, geometrical abstraction there. So when we say that abstraction started in Europe in Bauhaus, when Kandinsky and Paul Klee were there, but the abstraction was here also in our old tantric artworks. And this is one of the examples of those tantric things. Then in India came Raja Ravi Verma. Just little before the freedom from British, Raja Ravi Verma painted. Raja Ravi Verma was from Kerala. He was taught by an English master. He learnt the European eclectic art very closely and very intimately. He learnt the treatment of chiaroscuro, the giving light and shade, etc., and worked vehemently on the Indian historical and mythological scenes or religious scenes. And he has painted so many paintings and installed a litho press in Bombay.
Yeah.
And with the litho press, whatever were printed, they were sold at throwaway price. My grandfather had around 200 litho prints because it was available for 1 rupee or 2 rupee.
Wow.
So the art reached to each and every house in the middle classes also. That was the biggest contribution of Raja Ravi Verma, that the art reached, because before this, we had folk art, which was in our ritualistic things. We were having celebrations, and folk art was done at our home, not by professionals, but by ladies and children, and everyone was involved in it. But the miniature paintings were done at the ateliers of rulers, and it was not in the reach of common men. So till the disintegration of British power from India, our common men, I would say even a principal of the college, did not know that such paintings are miniature paintings, and they are from our Indian tradition. It was exposed only after the disintegration of British power, when Nehru had opened the museums. All the museums were open for public, and things reached there, and miniatures were exposed to the common public. To that public, which was living in metro zones, even in the smaller cities, people were not knowing that miniature painting was our tradition. Later on, these academies were opened, central academies, Lalit Kala Academy, Sahitya Academy, and they had lots of publications. And that's how, by the end of 50s, it started reaching to our hands. And that is the story. Now, Raja Ravi Verma's next contribution, I would say, was little dangerous also. I would, don't take me as negativity. See, this kind of paintings Raja Ravi Verma did to please Maharajas and to the rich people. Now, what happened later on? The country got free, and the corporate house started producing calendars. And in calendars, they started painting, bringing such figures influenced by Raja Ravi Verma. They would bring the model, they would put it in such a sensuous way that it looks much cheaper. And while you are buying your chappals or shoes and you are buying clothes, you would be given a free calendar. And people started taking those calendars, and they were hanging in their houses. Somewhere, if a person was a little rich, he would just cut it, get it framed, and framed work will be displayed. But this is the way the art was reaching to common people, but in a bad way.
Yeah.
Because these calendars were very filthy, and notorious calendars were there. So this is the story. And by end of by the beginning of 20th century, the British art was copied by our painters also. These are the paintings which were painted by our painters. And this is the painting of Udaipur. If you have gone to city palaces, any one of you have visited Udaipur and seen the city palaces, this is the entrance of city palaces. Even today, it is similar. So it is the procession of Maharana Bhupal Singh, which is going out, and all the figures have been painted as if a photograph has been taken. And this is a painting. This is not a photograph. It looks like a photograph. So our miniature painters painted such paintings also, by the influence of British, which had a naive quality. It had a naive quality because they were not trained for chiaroscuro behavior. They could not blend colors properly. They did not have the study of anatomy because our paintings were stylized. So this is the end of our theme. Then India got free. We had lots of art education colleges here. Similarly, you have design colleges now. The things are progressing. Wonderful. This is the last painting done by Udaipur miniature painter in a very English way. Thank you so much.
Ah, lovely. Maybe you like to stop sharing the screen so that all of us can come on a bigger scale. But this was a wonderful journey, a walk through, right from the earlier times till today, and how there has been a kind of a connection, all the way through, and how creativity, even through creativity. And later on, I mean, even if you take this thing further into the future, if you so-called, what should we say, translate it in future, where it will lead to, and how this kind of creativity can be applied to designs. I mean, things of utility. Like I can easily see fashion in some way connected to this. But there are so many other objects, so many things of utility where, this sort of creativity will have a. So it's nice to, to study this. And especially when you showed that carton, the box of the signature thing, and then you converted it into an abstract art. Now, likewise, it could be in anything. So I don't know what your views are on this. So maybe you can share your thoughts on this. In fact, there is a question here also.
Yeah.
Before you would like to answer, address that, from a student or somebody, Dimple Rabjani. It says, "Sir, I would like to know you. I would like to know you have taken us to the beautiful history of art and creativity, but what is the future of art for the young artists coming up?"
Okay.
Yeah.
Dimple, things never stop. They are always progressing. It is at the time factor is always there. At this time, what is going on? For example, I tell you, I'm not well acquainted with the computer technology. And my son is very much exposed to the computer technology, and he creates sculptures, he creates three-dimensional artworks, lenticulars, etc. And he does lots of things through computer, which I cannot do. So the progress is there. At this time, you have this technology available. At my time, things improve what were not earlier to me.
Correct.
At the time of, we are a family of painters. My father was a painter, my grandfather was a painter, and my son is a painter, my wife is a painter. So the entire, it is a zoo of painters.
Yes. So the evolution, yes, correct.
So,
yeah.
But I would say that we all are different, because it is very important. As I said, that if novelty is not there, if progressiveness is not there, if originality is not there, then you are you will be taken away by the stream.
Yeah.
So you have to search yourself, and the time you are living, you have to live with that time.
Oh, in the meantime, another interesting question has come up from Palak Jain. I wanted to know, I'm pursuing graphic designing. So how do you see art in this digital era?
Well, when you say graphic design, it has happened with me because I'm not very much aware with the vastness of graphic design. We, in the beginning, when we started learning painting and printmaking, we used to call it graphics. And it happened to me that I went on an artist residency in Lucknow, and there I was invited by a very important press there to share my views on graphic art with their professionals. And I said, I'm just totally unaware of the applied arts. I cannot talk. I can talk about printmaking, the graphic, because the term graphic art was used for etching, lithography, and screen printing, etc. And later on, it became much vaster because the Art Council of America had a very long seminar, and they decided that the printmaking is different and graphic arts are different. And in graphic arts, you can include printmaking, but at the same time, it is the art which is for common use. I mean, product design or the communication design, etc. So there are different branches, and I'm sorry, I'm unaware. I'm not expert on those, so I can't comment. I do etchings and lithography, etc., but not other part of graphics.
No, but I think whatever it is, you've put it fairly well. And many a times, well, like it's like getting inspired. I mean, inspiration from even arts, and how you can take elements from it, make it abstract, take it to a digital art form, and create something totally new. It'll be something so unique and different. So I think that would be a good way to go. Yeah.
It has happened in the history, not only Picasso, many painters and sculptors have taken inspiration from the things, and it changed totally.
Yes.
Picasso was impressed by African art.
Right.
And African art was so conical and so sharp. The treatment of eyes, the treatment of face and body and fingers, everything was unlike European art.
Yes.
And he picked up from there, looked at the objects, and he moved further.
Yes. Yeah. Good. So I wonder if there are any further questions. Else this session can really, it's been very inspiring and interesting. We can continue for a long time, but I think we will take it according to the time. But I think it's a very good walkthrough, and it would have been very interesting also had we been able to connect the 3D artworks or the 3D creations of Akash, and then connected with this. Oh, that would be another time.
On the screen, 3D looks like 2D.
2D. Well said. Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, so on behalf of Arch College of Design and Business in Jaipur, thank you so much, Shail, and I think this will inspire a lot of learners of design, the scholars, the students. And we shall stay connected, and anytime a situation which demands good analysis of how art can evolve into a design. I think this would be a good reference point for that. So thank you once again, and wish everybody all the best. Okay. And stay tuned in, everyone. Once again, let me not forget this, that this series is going to continue. So you have another one day after tomorrow. So stay absolutely aligned on the information page, and the sessions, 11 more sessions are yet to come. So looking forward to you all being there. Thank you so much. All right. Bye-bye.
All right.